Good morning, everyone. Come on, warm up, you guys. I have lost the art of public speaking. I haven't spoken in front of such a large audience for the last 18 months. So you are my cheerleaders. You're going to bring me back into the practice, won't you? Good morning, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for that. Actually, when you talk about cyber resilience, this ransomware attack, you lose hope on humanity. I was walking in from Venetian. There was a lot of action in Venetian. People were directing people here and there, long coffee lines. I keep walking. My session is at Wynn. All right, I can cross the bridge. It's right across the street. Get over here. Where's the Crystal Ballroom? So that way. Take a right, take a left, take a right again, and whatnot. I forget. Keep walking. I'm like, man, this thing is so far off. Nobody's going to show up today. This is going to be one of those sessions where I'll have two people, one in that corner, maybe he's the audio guy, and one in this corner, he's from my company. That's going to be it. But you guys, with all the lack of humanity that I had lost with ransomware attacks, you have restored my faith in humanity. So big round of applause back to you. Thanks for coming on a Monday morning. Thanks for being here early in Vegas. Hope this is the new normal. We get back to normalcy and this new variant, whatever it's called with an O, doesn't stick. And that's not the ransomware attack somebody's playing on us. With that, let's get started on the topics for today. So we're in this new world, working remotely, trying to be super extra efficient than we were at work, so no coffee breaks. So suddenly all your calendar is jam-packed with, every 15 minutes of your calendar is taken away and you're more kind of productive, supposedly. So the markets are trying to do more with data. They're trying to do more with digitization. Data management is the key paradigm. How do you make use of data? Of course, this was all there 2019 too, but we were all busy with some other things in life. There was a bigger part to life. But now it's all about, let's drive these businesses faster, right? And then comes an attack on humanity, truly, with COVID. And then also we start to see that people have started to attack our data, because that's where I think the value is. People are now, it was just a simple malware that you would click and then maybe you would have to reboot your computer and maybe something like that. But now people are going to send you bills for that. Like, hey, if you want your data back, pay me these many Bitcoins, or I don't know, whatever the form of payment they want to take. And then enterprises are struggling with, how do I manage my data? What's the framework? So we're going to talk about all these topics today. And more than what a vendor or what a technology does, I think for all of you here, I want to leave you behind with a framework on how you should be thinking about your enterprise, how you should be kind of planning for putting all these silos together, right? Because I think everybody agrees that this acceleration of data consumption, value from data, insights from data is only going to go up, and it's only going to go up into places like public cloud, and that's why you see such a large contingent of people from all over the world here, in spite of all these travel bans and whatnot. 20,000 people here, and they all believe that the next generation of applications are going to happen in the native cloud world. So it's really imperative to have a framework to kind of handle this shift as people go from their enterprise vaults of data center into public clouds and putting data into cloud native applications, putting data into SaaS applications, putting data on your cell phones, edge devices, you name it, there's going to be data reminiscence. So how do you really pull all of these things together and start to make sense for your enterprise? So when you start to really, the CIO, nothing has changed for him, by the way. That the poor guy, is anybody like here, top honcho in their IT, VP IT, who owns, the buck stops at him. Raise of hands quickly, somebody senior from IT who's, a couple of you guys here. Feel sorry for you, because nothing has changed. You're going to get less resources. You're going to get more regulations. Data is going to grow massively going forward. And guess what? Somebody's going to also send you this ransomware check invoice, like, hey, pay me in addition to all the IT payments you're making if you want to get your data back. And this is fundamentally coming out of the silo. And I don't think it's anybody's fault. things have grown. Things have grown quickly. And when you start to look at all of the things you got to manage, there is a 111 or a 7 vendor or like n number of vendor problem. You have each vendor doing their own thing that is not orchestrated, that is not talking in the same language. They are all dependent on sometimes the hardware, the firmware versions. They are so locked in. And again, the data architecture itself is siloed. Fundamentally, complexity meaning there are gaps, and those gaps are going to be exploited. If there are gaps to be had, they will be exploited. And that's fundamentally why this is happening. And while you want to really go from scale, I think most of you here probably have 10 plus, 100 plus Amazon AWS accounts, soon to be going to 1,000 plus accounts. You want to not just take your VMs that you moved from your data center onto AWS, you also want to start building cloud native applications and then still operate them all efficiently because you still have one footprint here, one footprint there. And then you still don't know how to secure this whole thing end to end. So this is fundamentally what happened. And this is going to change. This is going to really fundamentally change the way you operate, because even with people who had great backups in place, had great systems in place, there is a 1/3, almost 27% according to this data, but 1/3 of companies who are not able to get back on their own feet once they have had a ransomware attack. So it becomes really, really important. And just for those of you who kind of wonder, like, what is ransomware? What's the halaba on all this talk about ransomware? This fundamentally is a new kind of a malware, bad code, bad actor, which perpetrates over 90 to 100 days. They start small, they infect, they get into your systems, slowly start encrypting, because if you did it quickly, most of your primary defense systems, perimeter defense, CrowdStrikes of the world and Palo Altos of the world will catch it. These guys want to be sneaky, so they go under, slowly one file at a time, a little bit here, a little bit there, they start to encrypt data. And once they're encrypted, fully done, that's when you kind of find out that, hey, I have lost control over my data. Now, at this time, you have to rely on one last defense, which is your backup. You say, okay, fine, you got hold of my primary data, but you know what? I have had a daily backup, I have a weekly backup, I have a monthly backup. I'll get back a clean copy from there. And that's where the shift in ransomware attacks has been to go compromise on your backup systems. And guess what? Why did somebody pick up on the backup systems to go attack? Of course, clearly, if you don't have a backup, they clean that out, then you don't have to, you'll be forced to pay. That's number one. Number two, it is imperative to understand that these backup systems have evolved over a long, long, long time. They have been using legacy systems. There are Windows-based machines using SSH, hacky scripts, and these backup systems are not built ground up for security, which means they're a very easy target for somebody to really come in, take control of your backup system, and your last line of defense is now also compromised, in addition to kind of having your data encrypted and inaccessible. So Druva is a company that I think we were fortunate to start building our solution as a SaaS platform day one. We built the Netflix, which was streaming movies day one. We didn't have to go down the DVD route. We didn't have to go down to the tape route. We didn't have disks to manage. We didn't have appliances to manage. And I guess you could call it foresight. We were visionaries. We'll take all the credit. But we started on AWS. We started using S3 as our data store layer, which has very high resiliency. And then we also built very clean concepts around availability, which was disaster recovery, cyber resiliency. And we created a SaaS offering for data protection. And that's why we see our customers using this platform to really secure themselves to an nth degree higher than what they would get from their legacy platforms. So that's what we do as Druva. And primarily, a lot of our focus goes on primary production environments and not on backup environments. And it's really important to make sure that you have a framework to measure whether your backup environment is secure. So what is the framework? So we call it the multi-layered defense for cyber resilience. So there are a couple of ways to look at security. I can tell you, hey, I have this great feature. I can do, I can capture packets and find out who is the malicious packet out there, and I can do wonderful technological things. But we believe security is never a technology-led solution just by itself. It has multiple different dimensions. We believe there are 3 different key layers. One is to kind of do something that is pre-hack, pre-ransomware. What do you do at that point? You need to have a system that has the highest level of integrity, highest level of availability. And the second pillar, before something bad happens to you, is to have operational security. I'll talk about these 2. And then the third is when bad things happen, then of course you are more in reactive mode. Then you do, how do I get back to normal in a super accelerated fashion? And that's what we call the third pillar, the accelerated recovery. So let's kind of go through each one of these pillars and then talk about what we can do in each one of those pillars. And that's why you build this framework, which then starts to really make sense together in your whole overall data center strategy or IT strategy. So the first part, the data integrity and availability. So the first thing, I think if you have been in backup, you have heard about backup talks. You would have heard about the 3-2-1, where 1 being an air-gapped copy that is kept in a different location. Most people say, hey, I have another data center. I have it in a separate data center. But guess what? That's not air-gapped enough. What if you could have a solution that is built in the cloud that operates in its own independent account, and it's genuinely air-gapped in a way where you don't have access to SSH, you don't have access to RDP, you don't have any access to that data, and even the data format is more proprietary to how somebody would store them in the most efficient manner in order to provide you most highly data integral available copy of that block that you have written, right? That's what we talk about, an isolated backup that is well air-gapped. Still using all the goodness of an Amazon S3 or even the other tiers of storage that come into you if you want to go into archive tiers like Glacier and so on and so forth. And then this architecture overall needs to be also highly available. It's not like some attack on your enterprise will bring down this backup infrastructure, because in current architectures, if you have an attack on your primary data center and you're running boxes and appliances, those can be compromised too. So there is this whole notion of the metadata being kept, the control plane being kept right next to your production data makes it very easy for somebody to take you down. So the first pillar within the data integrity and availability is a good isolated backup. Once you have made sure the data that's written, it's written one and it's readable, it's available, great stuff. So that's one part taken care of. Then the second dimension that you got to really explore is, do you have the system that is built on zero trust and has multi-factor authentication? Because if I compromise one user, is that user credential going to be sufficient for me to get into the system, or I need a multi-factor auth on that? And that's the second pillar of what you really need in order to protect it another layer. And as you can see, I'm kind of building layers of security policies that really kind of beef up to come together and make it a very, very resilient platform. And third, on top of it, having things like Cloud DR natively built in, having multiple accounts, multiple regional support, and using technologies like AWS Private Link starts to really make you even more efficient in this whole journey. So maintaining the data integrity and availability for the system becomes one key layer that you start to do. And that's what we used the same philosophy to build for the Data Resilience Cloud with Druva as we started to build our SaaS platform, right? Then we come to the second part of it. Now, most times when you're doing backup, you are so busy with everything else that's going on, all the fire drills, all keeping your production environments really, really well-oiled, well-running. Your CIO wants a report. You want to do something else. You want to create some new innovation. You want to do ML, AI. All of those things keep you busy. What if I said, hey, you guys got to go back, and for all the backup systems you have, you need to run a 24/7 operations center that really manages the best-in-class vulnerability scanning, best-in-class patching and upgrade, monitoring it for malicious activity, and then access control needs to be monitored. You probably need like a good 3 or 4 people, of course, very smart ones, to actually put this all together. But guess what? I think machines can manage machines better. We know that. Cloud has taught us that. The second piece is, this is something what a SaaS provider can bring to the table that no other backup vendor can provide. Because this means the onus is not on you to do all this. The pen testing that goes in, the patching and upgrades that come in seamlessly without you knowing that there was a security vulnerability that was discovered by some nth party in the other part of the world. So all of these things together really automatically is being offloaded in a big way to the backup vendor. And that is something that you don't now have to worry about. And the whole thing is brought to you together. And on top of it, really bringing you controlled access in terms of who has access to the APIs, who has the admin access. So all of these things become really, really critical for you to get a 24/7 operational center running for you, for your data, for your workloads, and for your backups in the SaaS world. And that's the second layer of defense that you have available for you. So let's just take an example on how this continuous monitoring works, right? For example, so when some deletion happens, for example, Druva has a control center where we detect anomaly. We look at the data that's coming in, says, hey, this customer has been deleting a lot of backups. And one of these incidents actually happened a couple of months ago during COVID times, where we helped a customer with ransom recovery, is we detected they were deleting tons of backups suddenly out of the blue. Our admin team calls them up and says, sir, we have been noticing a lot of deletions. Is that you? And that's when we discovered that this was not somebody who was actually an admin that was actually deleting it, but some malicious user who caught hold of it. But luckily for the customer, we had this concept of a recycle bin. So when somebody deletes these restore points, as we call them, they all go into a bucket and sit in a recycle bin before our team actually confirms and says they are good to go, delete them completely. And that prevented all those restore points from getting deleted. And the customer was so thankful for us to put those restore points back, and everything went back to normal. So imagine trying to do this in your enterprise, trying to put people to monitor it, and kind of get the same level of security operations going on your backup systems. Because these, you want to set it up and forget it, right? So this is just one example, right? There could be nth degree variations to all of the use cases that come with the security ops and continuous monitoring. So this really is another architectural uncovering what cloud enables you to do. These things were not possible when you had just a bunch of disks or tapes or appliances on-prem. This is an architectural shift that is only made possible because of cloud. And here we are, 10th year of AWS reInvent. And here we are, we should be taking advantage of these architectures for our advantage and make machines work on our behalf instead of putting more people, more systems, and again, they opening up more vulnerabilities. Now, this is all good. This is steady state. This is peacetime. No problem. You've chosen a good system. But guess what? There is something that's going to be weak. The access guy is going to make some mistake. Somehow they're going to get inside, and they're going to infect you. Then what do you do? Again, the cloud architectures provide you with this fantastic way to contain, identify, and recover. And that's the beauty of this whole solution, is when you can now make sure, number one, fire drill. You got an email, hey, we have a ransomware attack. Who is infected? Which devices? Which backups? Which applications? You have to find something. And of course, there are some very smart, independent security tools that will say it happened between Jan 21st of 2020 and February 3rd of something. You got a timestamp. Great. What do? How do you then go first quarantine based on a time definition? Or you can quarantine based on a geo definition, or quarantine based on, hey, all these endpoints which are running Windows, this, that, with that patch. Now you can take this intelligence, contain them first. Then you can figure out which one is really bad and which one's supposed to be deleted and which one's supposed to be eligible to restore, right? And then the second is identify. Now, of course, you can use specialized tools. The same machine learned algorithms give you what we call unusual data activity. So they define things that are not in the norm. They have some thresholds. These are machine learned thresholds that we understand from your usage. And now we can identify the potential problems of which of your restore points could be infected or could be malicious. If you were to restore this point, then you may come back with the same infection again. So that's the worst thing you can do to yourself, right? So the way you identify becomes very important, and then you can additionally, when you're recovering, supplement it with malware signatures. You could supplement it with antivirus, or whatever the techniques you have to doubly make sure that you are restoring the clean copies. Now, the good thing is you can also sandbox it, restore it into the cloud. There was a customer who wanted to restore something back into a VMC cloud, very secluded, try it out before they really kind of open up the application. So all of these automated ways are possible. For example, we have an integration with Palo Alto, where Palo Alto can feed in the kind of security events manager into our APIs, and then APIs will actually orchestrate and quarantine a whole bunch of these restore points. So all of these tooling can be done in software. All of this tooling can be done in the cloud. These are very hard to do when you have discrete boxes sitting in your data center. Another example is what we call a curated snapshot. Imagine you had file 1 through 5. Over time, you find that some files, this ransomware attack is going to encrypt one day at a time. And this is just a simple example. And you don't really want to restore just one day, one slice of it, because if you restore day 126, you will find that file 4 is unusable because it's been encrypted. How do you deal with finding that one last clean copy of that file that you can actually take back to your user? So with this feature that we have, again, software intelligence, we can stitch together, curate a snapshot, which is picking up the latest and the best copy of clean file that is put together, really saving hours and hours of time. You already lost so much money dealing with downtime and ransomware and all of that stuff. You don't want to be spending weeks trying to stitch together which restore point to bring in, which file to bring back. So this is just another example of providing really cloud-based, machine-learned intelligence that can now bring a huge amount of value to security, not just like the best-in-class data protection, right? That's what we are here to do, and that's what we have been doing for our customers. And again, Vertex is one such customer who went through ransomware attack. They were kind of really, really happy with what they had used for Druva. They had some other systems as well, but with Druva, they were able to kind of restore back quickly, use all of these software intelligence to their advantage. Now, this is one area that I talked about, was a lot of it could apply to all of the workloads, right? One would be for your primary data center, VMware workloads, Filer workload, Office 365, whatnot. But there are some customers who are dedicatedly building net new application in a cloud-native fashion. And we have, in addition to all of these technologies, built some more things that we are announcing actually at the event that help customers who are investing heavily into AWS environments. So we are announcing at this event the integration with AWS Control Tower. Control Tower is a net new feature of onboarding accounts and making sure that when you put in new accounts in Amazon, the best practices on how to kind of take them through a multi-account security lifecycle is put together when you really use Control Tower. We are actually, we are the first and currently the only data protection vendor who has integrated with the control tower capability. And we make it very easy to take and make sure that all of your account onboarding into AWS is seamlessly passed on to Druva as well, using our connectors that are available in the marketplace, and allows you to make sure that you have the peace of mind, making sure that data resiliency is also taken care of as you have put resources and accounts under them. So really making it easy for you to adopt AWS as you scale AWS usage. It's a huge step in that direction for us. And the second key feature that we have, which has been a great game changer for our customers, is to enable business continuity with one-click DR. I think the runbooks, the whole copying all the VPC information, the settings, all of it make it extremely easy to create a DR plan. In case of some availability issue, it could be because of ransomware attack, it could be because of a normal availability issue with your downtime, your application going corrupt, whatever happened. One-click DR really saves you the day because it can now take a simple DR plan, set up early, copy of your environment, and you can take it on to a target account of wherever you want to set it up. So really, really important to make sure that you leverage these technologies as you start to scale and put together a new security framework and availability framework for your enterprise. Same with Cats Media, I think a great customer of ours, and really had this technology used for both on-prem and cloud experience, and are using Cloud DR in a big way in order to protect themselves from availability. So I just wanted to play a quick clip before I kind of summarize and make sure that you had a way to listen to our customer Timothy at Suez. And I think this would play, this hopefully. Oops, it keeps jumping slide. Well, that's the first technical snafu of the day in the event. So ladies and gentlemen, you have the first demo, kind of a snafu there. We'll let Timothy, we can go back to our video on the website. We hope you'll be able to listen to him. But he pretty much reaffirmed a lot of things that I talked about in terms of the value that they got at Suez, which is one of our biggest customers, and protecting hundreds of terabytes with us. But again, I think the key point being, we are going to live in a world that is distributed. SaaS applications, cloud-native applications, you're not going to let go of your data center that easily. You have edge and endpoints coming in as well. And all of these not just need great data protection, they need cyber resiliency, they need governance, and they need data intelligence. And the only way to really build a platform for the future that allows you to take the best of breed of technology and run it in a way where machines can manage machines, and 1:1000s kind of a ratio for you to happen and get the scale, it is all going to be in the cloud. And that is the key takeaway for you, is when you really start to build, look at these three pillars that we talked about, and make sure that you are comfortable with that framework. Now, it's not going to be a perfect world. You will have to deal with legacy. There will be things that are not easy to customize and automate and orchestrate. But the key is to really put together a framework for the future that you can bring additional workloads. And as you evolve in the next 2 to 3 years, and your data center evolves to a more cloud-focused, agile software environment, these things will protect you in the long run, right? And if you want to know more, please stop by our booth. I'll be there. I have my colleagues as well who are in the room, as well as they'll be in the booth. Please do attend another breakout session by our CTO, Stephen Manley, on Wednesday. And feel free to give us your feedback. Come try Druva. But hope you enjoyed the session. But thank you otherwise, and have a great rest of the show, guys. Thank you so much.